giving way to spring. With a new year upon us, it was about time to begin work on the cabin once again. My goal this year was to harvest all the logs needed for the cabin, and to finally begin construction. Each log I selected was measured before being harvested. I had a minimum number set. If the log came up too short, it was left. If it was just the right size, or larger, I would harvest it. The minimum number I had chosen was 25 inches in circumference. Any smaller and I would just create more work for myself and need more logs for the walls. And there goes the first log of the season, marking the beginning of the work for this year. With a good start to harvesting the 14-footers achieved, I began moving them to their log beds, a task made easy with the help of my little wagon. First the 14-footers, then came the 6-footers. Upon a walk in the woods to retrieve more logs, I came across this little guy. If you look closely, you may see him move. It is the ruffed grouse, or bush chickens, as my father likes to call them. Big and small, it is a treat to see life in these woods again, especially after such a long winter. I decided to finish the day with moving the 7.5-footer logs, the remaining 7.5-footer logs, and I was happy with the progress I had made. Every single 7.5-footer log needed for this project was harvested, peeled, and hauled to the log bed, all 68 of them. With the last tree to be harvested within my grasp, it of course had to get hung up. Not a problem for me though, as I have years of experience under my belt. I knew a lever was going to make short work of this tree. And so it did, marking the end to log harvesting completely. And that is how you do that. All that was left to do now was to haul the then peeled logs to their seasoning beds. For this, I called on the help of one of my friends, Conrad. He was a great help. I could have done this alone, but it would have taken a lot longer. With him there, he made the work sweep by with ease. And for that, I am grateful. With a good amount of the 6-footers hauled, I then cut 2 small poles. This was to allow triple stacking of the cabin logs. just like that, with the help of Conrad, all the 6-footers were brought to their seasoning bed. All 34 of them. In a previous episode, I had expressed that I would no longer be using the 10-footers as normal cabin logs, as 10 feet was no longer the width I wanted for the cabin. Instead, I wanted it to be 14 feet wide. But I still had plans for the 10-footers. They were going to be used as filler logs, or sectioned logs. They will go in areas where a full-length log is not needed. The majority of these logs will be used in the front, an area where I know I want a large window, a bay window for that matter. These section logs will save on the amount of full-length logs needed to be harvested. I will also use them to make up the remaining 3-footer logs needed. Whenever I would cut off the butt end of one of these logs, if it was too small to be used, I would simply burn it. The fire kept those pesky black flies and mosquitoes at bay. As spring pushed out the winter, more of them had awoken. The smoke from this fire kept them away and provided great company. When I would stay until dark, and the moon and the fire were the only light I had, I couldn't help but look back and reminisce about last year and all those huge fires I made. It made me think of one thing. I live for nights like this, and that for now, life is good. The logs that were once going to be the front and back of the cabin will still be used, just in a different manner than intended. Over the spring days, I finally built a 3-footer seasoning bed. Now they have an area on their own to season, without getting in the way of the other logs. As for these 4-footers, they will have to season with the 6-footers. Every log was finding its place to season until construction. But there was still preparation that needed to be done. The last few logs needing to be moved were now peeled. I had them at the log cabin storage site. But before I moved them, I decided to take time away from them in order to start construction on a little bridge over the muddy area leading to the site. There were plenty of materials left over from when I cleared this area up, so starting construction on this little bridge was no problem whatsoever. I knew I wasn't going to finish the bridge that day, but I had it intended to. I only wanted to get it to working order. That way, the logs stay high and dry from the mud. I will have to finish it at a later date, as I know back and forth trips will become more frequent to the site in the coming days. Although it was only a start to a bridge, the bridge worked beautifully to keep the logs clean. These last remaining 14 footers were close to their seasoning bed. But before I laid them on there, I decided to reorganize the bed completely. Upon doing this, I laid them out in a pattern of what they will look like as the front wall of the cabin. Seeing this brought me so much excitement. It literally provides a sneak peek of what the future holds. But excitement aside, I had a job to do, so it's back to reorganizing them. As the sun sets on yet another spring day, every log found its place. The 6-footers, the 4-footers, the 14-footers, the 3-footers, and the 7.5-footers. Every single log needed for this project was cut, hauled, peeled, seasoning, and patiently waiting to be used when construction starts. With a lot of the preparation work done, summer was here. With every log in place, I decided today was the day to begin marking the outline of the cabin corners. This is the first step in the cabin's construction. Before I can finish that though, the old 10-footer seasoning bed was gonna get in the way, and would get in the way of the future cabin. So I decided now was the time to move it. In a previous episode, I had stated that I was no longer going to be building the cabin in the area I said I was going to, and that instead of building it on concrete piers, I would be building it on the ground, much in the same way the pioneers built their cabins before me. I will be building my cabin this way to ensure it can be built quickly. The reason for the rush is the simple fact that I will be moving from here soon. I will not be going away forever, but I do want the walls built before then. Doing it this way ensures that will happen. Building it here, the log cabin will be more private and won't be out in the open as much as it would have been in the other location. And a simple fact, this was actually going to be the original build site. Well, it's going to be the build site once more. With the 4 corners marked, there was just a few more steps to take before I could truly begin construction. Just a couple more obstacles in the way. For one, the little fireplace I had built. I will have to relocate it somewhere else. And as for an old rotting log, that will go too. The site is now ready for the gravel, in which the sill logs will lay on. But before then, I need to actually get the gravel. But before I could even do that, I need to upgrade the little wagon. Currently, it sits with no cladding, until now. With a couple of sheets of plywood I had laying around, I decided to finally give it its cladding. All this time, the little wagon sat incomplete. But it didn't need to be complete to do its job, at least not until now. For the next phase of the cabin project, it will certainly need its cladding, and so I completed it and gave it its bike adapter, as it will be hauling gravel from a gravel pit over 2 miles from here. Nothing has ever been hauled this far by the little wagon, and it will have to make this trip not once, but several times. Doing this will be a real challenge for the little wagon. And not just the little wagon, it will also be a challenge for myself. Gravel gets heavy very quickly, and I just know already that these trips are going to take a lot out of me. But in order to see the little wagon in action and myself, you'll have to wait until the next episode. But until then, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.